Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to For StarCraft 2 Strategy, and take a look at this, running full ultra, brand spanking new computer, 1920 by 1080 resolution. How exciting is this? I'm going to be trying to get you guys videos in 1080p now. Now the one thing that's causing a little bit of an issue for me is that I don't know how to do it with the program I use. I looked at the pre-settings for rendering videos and I couldn't find any setting for 1080p. Only 720p was the highest. I use Adobe Premiere Elements 9, so if any of you lovely folks out there are familiar with that program and know how to render video in 1080p, please do send me a message. But let's get into the game here. What we're looking at today is a Protoss strategy. So here are our Protoss, I keep saying Protoss. Our Protoss player is Crowlu, and our Zerg opponent is MTW's Demaga. Now most of you are probably going to be much more familiar with Demaga, but again, we're going to be looking at a Protoss strategy today. So what we're taking a look at is a 4-gate timing push. Everyone is familiar with the 4-gate. If you play Protoss, you've probably done a 4-gate before. It's nothing new, nothing really innovative, but very, very effective, very strong. Mostly, I mean, I would say that I think the 4-gate's going to be most effective against Zerg, and then also obviously very effective against Terran as Protoss as well. I mean, truthfully, it's pretty effective against all the races, but I think Zerg, you can really cause the most damage. Now, the biggest things to really worry about are going to be early banelings breaking through your front wall, killing off any zealot that you may have blocking that small choke, and then also an early roach push. So the things you're going to need to do, like with every game, is you're going to have to scout, you're going to have to see what your opponent's going for, and decide precisely what you're doing based off of that. Now either way, we do intend on going for this 4-gate regardless, but depending on how we go about doing that may change. For example, if we see that we might be getting hit early, we may want to save some of our chrono boost to bring in some early stalkers and sentries to fend off an early push. But with our scouting, we do see that he's macroing up pretty hard, so in this game we're actually just going to go straight for a fast 4 warp gate. Now let's start out taking a look at this beginning build order. Started off with that 9 Pylon, followed that up with a 12 gateway and a 13 Assimilator. Then at 16 supply, we saw our Cybernetics Core go down. And so yeah, basically what we're going to be doing is through our scouting information, seeing that he's got this quick expansion, we are going to go back in and see that he's droning up pretty hard. Now because of that, we're going to be using our chrono boost on the Cybernetics Core. We're basically in this game going to be getting this 4-gate as fast as humanly possible. You can see as soon as that warp gate research comes in at 22 supply, immediately start chrono boosting that in. Our second assimilator, that also came down at 21 supply. So we're going to want to get at least this one zealot to choke off the ramp here, to block off the ramp, and block off the choke. There we go. And also, getting a sentry beside that isn't a bad idea. If you get a sentry, it's going to allow you to use those force fields. So in case there are any early pushes, that's going to allow you to defend against that. Now again, we're basically going to be trying to get this as quickly as possible. Do want to use some of your chrono boost on your probes, because otherwise your economy will just be hurting far too much. But just starting off with these early units, starting off with this Zealot and Stalker. Again, the Zealot's going to be used in this choke here, put on a hold position that's going to prevent any Zerglings from running through. I'm going to be doing some scouting, trying to do some harassment with this Stalker. A big danger is if he has, say, 6 Zerglings, you're probably going to lose the Stalker. So we're kind of hoping at this point that with moving out with the Stalker that we don't catch him with a heavy amount of Zerglings, or he doesn't catch us with a heavy amount of Zerglings, and that we're going to try to get some scouting information. I honestly suggest secondary scouting coming through that probe, but this isn't a terrible idea either. But like I said, it could be very easy to lose this. All he would really need is about 6 Zerglings. Back at the base here, you can see still chrono boosting in this warp gate research. We have these 3 gateways, and they should be done just about the same time as that warp gate research finishes. These 2 at least are going to be done relatively soon. Timing on these 3 gateways, we saw 2 of them go down at 28 supply, and then this third one went down at 30 supply. So we're going to be getting these warp gates right away at this moment. Still continuously coming with probes. Always want to be building probes constantly. So right now you see no probes are coming. Don't want that happening. Make sure you're always building probes. I'm going to be placing a proxy pylon outside of his base, and this is a very strong tactic. I don't think enough players utilize this. When I look at like the average player's game that I get replays sent to me from, I don't see enough proxy pylons. Now as Protoss, you really want to fully utilize this warp gate research. It allows you to warp in units wherever you have pylon power. You don't just need pylons in your base. Build them outside your opponent's base. Build them in some dark corners of the map where they're not likely to check. This is going to allow you to be very mobile with your forces and where you can apply pressure and where you can warp in units. As you can see, he did try to poke forward with a Zergling. Just having the Zealot was enough. Now again, a big danger here is, say he pushed out right now. We don't really see anything. You do want to grab these Zelnaga towers, but if he did push out with a strong force and we saw it at the front of our base, just warp in a sentry or two, put some force fields down. This is going to buy you the time to counterattack, and then ideally take him out when he's trying to be aggressive towards you. So as you can see, drop some proxy pylons, a good idea. Constantly use that warp gate research whenever it's up. They're going to keep your minerals nice and low. This means that you're making forces that are going to be effective. Now, we do want to use those force fields basically to try to prevent the Zerglings from getting us around. So being in here is actually not a bad idea, because if Zerglings try to come over here, you can force field this area, you can force field over here. This is going to keep all these ranged units nice and safe. And essentially what you want to do to make sure that you're always warping in new units is keep hitting W, keep hitting that warp gate hotkey, and whenever it's off cooldown, warp in some more units and put them right back into the battle. Taking out this expansion, that's probably going to be the #1 priority. This is going to really set him back since he's invested so much into it. And then from that point, going to be picking off these spine crawlers and trying to push in his base. Back at our base, not too much going on right here. At this point, it would be a good idea to prepare for a transition. One of two things you could do. You could try to drop an expansion. If you don't want to invest that many resources, though, and you want to keep playing very aggressively, it's all going to depend on how the battle is going. But if it's going well and you want to keep playing aggressively to try to take him out, then obviously you won't be able to afford an expansion. But maybe even drop a Templar Archive just to start to tech up. So as you can see here, picking these off, picking the spine crawlers off. You're going to be trying to do as much damage as possible. Force fielding the ramp, that's also a brilliant idea, because all of his forces are in this base here. And at this point, he doesn't really have much more aside from Zerglings, possibly Roaches. So if you force field the ramp, he doesn't have enough of a range to shoot you from here, as long as you stay far back enough. And the Zerglings, it's going to prevent them from coming as well. I mean, force field is just an excellent ability. In fact, I don't think I made note of it, but the first wave of units that we warped in were those sentries. The main purpose behind doing that is because we do want to save up energy to allow them to get as many force fields and guardian shields as possible once we do finally move into battle. So yeah, like I said, you do want to prepare for some sort of a transition. I would highly suggest getting this Twilight Council. I think I said Templar Archives last time. I would highly suggest getting that Twilight Council and prepare for some sort of tech switch or going for that expansion. Because this battle isn't always going to go immediately in your favor. You won't always win in a 4-gate push, but it is very effective, and at the very least, you should do a lot of damage with it. So yeah, guys, once again, we did take a look at this 4-gate push, a timing push, and taking advantage of the fact that our opponent was going for a strong econ, and even though he did have some units, because of force fields and stalkers, it definitely wasn't enough to handle what we had. Let's take one more look at that build order, starting off with that 9 Pylon, follow that up with a 12 Gateway, then a 13 Assimilator. At 16 supply, we saw that Cybernetics Core go down. 21 supply, that second Assimilator coming up. 22 supply, as soon as this Cybernetics Core comes up, we're going to get that Warp Gate research right away and start off with Chrono Boosting it. We do want to try to get this out fast, because we did see our opponent was getting that fast expansion and trying to drone up. And then a 28 supply, we got these 2 additional gateways, 3rd gateway coming down at 30 supply. And so, dropping proxy pylons, pushing towards our opponent. Again, like I said, I would suggest trying to get some higher tech or expanding at that point as well. Something to really note is that when you're being aggressive and you're doing damage to your opponent, it buys you a lot of time, and it definitely buys you time to get up an expansion if that's what you want to do. Or at the very least, to tech up and switch tech in case he comes at you with something. For example, say he was able to get some mutas on the board and we wanted to respond with Blink Stalkers, we do want to get that Twilight Council up so that we can get that Blink research. So once again, guys, this has been for StarCraft 2 Strategy. If you guys like our videos and you like what we're doing here, please do go ahead and subscribe to our channel. Keep watching and keep owning, guys. Now again, it's so important to try to keep these units alive, pull them away when their shields are low. And here's another great example, having these health bars up. It's easy to see the low guys, and you can just pull them away, let them gen up, and then you're pretty much all set from there. Still paying attention back at our base, doing 2 things at once, multitasking. That is the name of StarCraft.